You're listening to Soundside. I'm Bill Radke, in for Libby Denkman. Will the Republican Party ever return to something like its old self? Maybe our next guest has an answer. Chris Vance was a Republican, a state legislator and King County Councilmember. He ran the Washington State Republican Party. He left the party in disgust over Trump, but now he is back. Still disgruntled yet hopeful? Chris, is that right?
No, that's exactly right.
And you'd started disliking your party even before Trump. I assume you think they've gotten worse since he showed up. So why would you become a Republican again?
Well, Bill, I think I made the actual announcement that I was leaving the party on your air on Week in Review in fall of 2017 because I felt like I was no longer even close to being in step with the majority of members of the Republican Party. I'm disgusted with Trump personally, but it's also about ideology on trade, on foreign policy, on national defense, on budgets and deficits, on the rule of law and immigration. He and his followers have taken the party in a completely different direction than Ronald Reagan or my mentors, Slade Gorton, Jennifer Dunn, people like that. But I also said, I'm not sure if I said it that day, but I said, if there's ever a real fight to take the party back, I would mount up and ride to the sound of the guns and be part of that fight. And it's finally happening.
How so? What is the signal that a fight is underway?
Well, last year at this time, Senator John Danforth, William Cohen, Senator late Alan Simpson, and 34 other distinguished Republicans, including Dan Evans from Washington State, created an organization called Our Republican Legacy. It is a 501c4 advocacy group. It's not a PAC. They formed it to be a group that would put out the message that Republican traditional core conservative values are not dead, that they are Republicans who refuse to leave the party and want to fight for it. And they put out some good messaging last summer, but they launched it right in the middle of the presidential campaign. And it just didn't get very much attention, not the kind of attention it deserved. But they brought me on late last summer, and we've kind of built a team, and we're pumping it up. More messaging on more platforms, more of the time. And we are building a national committee of volunteers to go out and do this work at the state level. We are trying to do nothing less than create a shadow version of the Republican Party in exile. And we're going to fight to take back control of the party through the 2028 election. And we think that as Trump leaves the stage in 2028, which he must do, like it or not, that the door will be open for traditional conservatives to take the Republican Party back.
But since Trump came along, the Republican Party has been doing a lot of winning. They've won the presidency twice. They won majorities in the House and Senate. Why would they listen to you?
Well, they're not going to listen to us. But we can, this is something that people fundamentally just seem to kind of gloss over. A political party is governed by competition. Okay? I was elected state chairman 3 times. The people who didn't like me didn't listen to me, but I beat them. Okay? I got elected. That's the thing here is Donald Trump took over the party by winning the nomination, winning the presidency, winning primary elections, electing, favorable state chairs. We haven't fought back. We have to now start fighting back to take back control of the party. And I believe that after 10 years of Trump domination of the party, there's going to be a real desire for something new and different.
I can't tell that Republican voters have soured on. So what is your evidence that you've got this energy? Do you have a presidential candidate who's a charismatic, exciting, loudmouth, funny, all the things Trump is, but an old-fashioned Republican?
No, we don't, and neither do they. Because that's the thing. Get used to this. Donald Trump will not be on a ballot again ever. He is very soon not going to be the leader of the Republican Party, the unchallenged, all-powerful leader. And there is nobody else that they have that can replicate who he is and can build his coalition.
Plenty of people worry that Trump is going to rig the system somehow and stay on. But even if he can't, won't he still be his party's spiritual leader pulling the strings on social media?
He'll try, but it is absolutely not the same thing to say vote for me versus vote for JD Vance. I mean, who does not have the kind of characteristics you just talked about. And Bill, I'm not saying we're going to absolutely win. I'm saying for the first time since 2016, we have a chance to fight to take the party back. And we're going to do that. We're going to fight like hell. I can't promise we're going to win.
Yeah.
I don't know who the candidate is going to be.
Yeah.
But, in 2024, you had a bunch of people from our wing of the party, Will Hurd, Asa Hutchinson, Chris Christie, I guess even Nikki Haley when she's not flip-flopping back and forth. Maybe even you could say Mike Pence, who ran for president. They had no chance against Trump. But there will be at least one, probably more than one, normal, sane, traditional Reagan-Bush Republican running in 2028. And we need to remobilize, call the tribe back together to fight the fight.
Okay, so the modern Democratic Party is good enough for you that you voted for Biden and then you voted for Harris. So how is this Republican Party that you want? What's your platform, and how is it so different from the Democrats that you voted for?
That's a great question. Everyone needs to go to ourrepublicanlegacy, all one word, .com, ourrepublicanlegacy.com. Senator Danforth, he's the driving force behind this, when he created it, he was very purposeful in that we would advocate for 5 key, broad, unifying principles that have always united conservatives, which is the union, support for the Constitution and the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, and free enterprise. Those are our core values. Donald Trump does not reflect those values, but neither do the Democrats in our mind.
How so?
Well, on trade. Donald Trump jacked up tariffs his first term, and Joe Biden left most of them in place. The Republican Party used to be a honest-to-goodness free trade party that negotiated NAFTA, that was negotiating Trans-Pacific Partnership. Neither party is for free trade right now. Neither party is serious about bringing the debt or the deficit. I supported Kamala Harris. I was part of Republicans for Harris. I mean, her plans would have driven up the debt as high as Trump's plans are.
But Republicans have been driving up the debt. Neither party has done anything but add to the debt, right?
That's right, for a long time. Let's go back to President Eisenhower, who worked very hard to balance budgets. Yes, we have not been good on this principle, but it is still one of our core principles. And it's worth noting that when Ronald Reagan cut taxes, the federal budget had a surplus. They thought they could afford a tax cut. The same is true of George W. Bush. Here you've got a supposed Republican president massively driving up debt when we're already in debt and getting worse. So I've been willing to support Democrats because it's a binary choice. It's either Trump or somebody else. But my real preference is a traditional free enterprise, pro-national defense, conservative Republican.
But is your fiscal responsibility pitch, we want to, what, cut entitlements, cut military spending, tax the rich?
Bill, we're not writing a platform right now or a plan for government. That's not, it's a little too soon for that. But it is to say that the Republican Party needs, once again, at least embrace that principle to get deficits and debt under control, not recklessly increase them. And you're seeing that right now. You're seeing a number of Republicans in the Senate, particularly, and the House, and now even Elon Musk, God bless him, saying that this kind of reckless deficit spending can't go on forever.
Cutting entitlements is not popular. Cutting military spending, you're already saying you want peace through strength. I don't think you're cutting military spending. Tax the rich, that's something the Democrats want. So I'm just trying to figure out what this new Republican Party is that's going to be fiscally responsible and sell that.
Well, you're getting a little ahead of us. I mean, we are just trying to get the Republican voters to think about getting back to these principles. Now, I personally, and we could have a long discussion about this, believe the only way you're ever going to get the federal budget under control is with a Simpson-Bowles grand bargain where you do address entitlements and take the cap off Social Security taxes. But that's not what our Republican Legacy's mission is. We are mobilizing traditional conservatives to at least get back in the fight.
I know you said that, and I know this about you, Chris, that you are frustrated with this binary two-party system. So why are you trying so hard to save one of the two parties? It seems like you would like to see both parties splinter so you can reconstitute one that you actually like.
Oh, I would love that, but you have to do the art of the possible. And Bill, I wrote an op-ed in the Seattle Times recently where I talked about since 2017, I have wandered around in the wilderness, bumping into things and trying to figure out a path. I've joined all sorts of different groups. I ran for office as an independent. I was briefly a member of the Forward Party. I would love it if we had a sane political system with at least four parties, a center right, a center left, a hardcore MAGA right, and a socialist left-wing party. But that ain't happening. No one is working on that.
There's no movement for that.
There's no movement for that. We are going to apparently, for the foreseeable future, be stuck with our two-party system. And in a two-party system, my friend, we cannot survive very long if one of the two parties is a fascist mob, which is what the Republican Party has become. America needs a stable Republican conservative party that is not a threat to democracy. So right now, the fight has to be, no matter how hard it's going to be, no matter how long it takes, restore the Republican Party to sanity. And the door is going to be open in 28 to take on that fight. We have, as of today, 17 state chairmen around the nation and thousands of activists on our list. We are building this organization. Our state chairmen are people like me, Republican veterans who've been active in the party, who are disgusted with where it's going, but are willing to fight to take it back.
We're talking with Chris Vance, former state legislator, Republican state legislator, former King County Councilmember, former chair of the Washington State Republican Party, and he's now advising an organization within the Republican Party called Our Republican Legacy. Chris, you mentioned, you used the phrase fascist mob. Do you believe, and what's your evidence for the possibility that you can counter how exciting it is to be in a culture war, to have grievance and resentment? It just seems like voters are animated not by fiscal conservatism, whether we want them to or not, or even some foreign authoritarian. A lot of voters seem to like authoritarians. So what's your evidence that you can harness the passions of Americans?
Last week, we had our first national committee meeting in Washington, D.C., where we brought in people in person and on Zoom and online to talk about these issues. And one of the presentations was from Whit Ayers, a noted Republican pollster who's kind of on our side of things. And he talked about a poll he had done earlier this year where only 35% of Republicans consider themselves MAGA. The vast majority still consider themselves mainstream Reaganite Republicans. What's happened in our party is Trump won the nomination in 2016. And ever since then, even people who disagree with him on a lot of things have been loyal to the brand, loyal to the party. And again, it's all about the possibility of change when Trump leaves. I believe that issues like peace and prosperity, growing jobs, standing up to Putin, standing up to China, that will still, I believe, motivate and animate conservative voters. But you're right. It is going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to continue to yell and scream about transgender athletes and woke, whatever that means. So I can't guarantee we're going to win, but I'm constantly asked the question, well, what about this? What about that? Why?
Yeah.
I just don't care. The time is past for navel gazing and hand wringing, and it's time to get up and fight. It is time for my wing of the party to fight back, no matter how hard it's going to be. And again, I can't promise we're going to win, but it was hopeless as long as Trump was the leader of the party. That's about to change.
Well, I do hear you framing it with passionate words. I mean, fight. You are trying to frame it as an epic contest.
Yeah, and it will be. It is so easy to look at what's happening right in front of you right now and become despondent. It's so easy to think that what's happening is permanent. But, at one point, I was like the youngest guy in every room. I'm 63 years old now. I've been in politics for 40 years. I have seen the pendulum swing back and forth and forth and back, and I have seen both parties declare dead over and over again. What people lose sight of is there's always the next election, and things change all the time. And it's going to change again. And the opportunity is going to be there to change the Republican Party, but it only happens through struggle. Politics is about competition. Either I win the election or you win the election. And we have to get back in there and get in the game.
Let's talk about Washington State Republicans for a moment. I
Yeah.
heard you say on a podcast last year that it's not enough to try to just say, as people have said to you, well, we're just going to concentrate locally. We're going to try to send good Republicans to Olympia. And you said, no, this state party is defined by Trump at the top. So what's your case that all is lost in Washington State? So we have Democratic majorities. What are they doing that you oppose so much?
Wow, what aren't they doing? I mean, it has been my theory for a while that the Democrats could do anything and hold on to the majorities in the state legislature because Trump defines the Republican Party, and therefore the Republican Party is dead on the West Coast. I still believe that. As long as MAGA defines the Republican Party, we can't win in Washington State. But what are the Democrats doing? My God. I mean, they just enacted the ultimate wish list of every liberal out there. I mean, the biggest tax increase in state history, firearms registration, rent control. They raised the gas tax. They are going way left, Democrats in Washington State. You know, Frank Chop just passed, and that's tragic. He was a great guy, but Frank would always try and warn the Democrats, if we go too far left, we're going to lose the suburbs. Well, they've gone way too far left, but as long as Trump is the face of the Republican Party, I'm not sure it matters. So, you know, the Democrats have been the majority party in Washington State since the Great Depression. But we used to be significant opposition. We'd elect members of Congress, we'd elect senators, governors, well, not a governor since 1980, but secretaries of state, attorney general, and we would often win majorities in one house of the legislature or both. Since Trump, the party has cratered in Washington State. So Washington State Republicans should be cheering for our Republican legacy and joining us because it's the only way they're going to be relevant again on the West Coast.
Well, you're blaming President Trump. I don't know. Washington State has reelected Democratic governors and legislative majorities over and over and over for a long time, before Trump, during Trump. We'll see.
Just one in 2015, we had a one-seat majority. 2015, 1 year before Trump, we had a one-seat majority in the state Senate, and we were within 2 seats of the majority in the state House. Yeah, we haven't elected a governor since 1980, but we've been darn close. You're talking to the guy who, you know, was state chair during the Dino Rossi campaign. Mm-hmm. Rob McKenna came close. So we used to be far more competitive in Washington State than we are right now. And the difference is the party has allowed itself to be hijacked by MAGA and Donald Trump. It ceased to be the Slade Gorton, Dan Evans party. And that's just fatal on again, here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, so in your opinion, your fight to take back the Republican Party is not just a national fight, but it has big implications for your home state.
Yeah, I mean, again, Trump has politically made the party stronger in a lot of places, you know, in like West Virginia and Kentucky and those sorts of areas. But he has destroyed it in other places, including, again, the West Coast. I mean, we used to do well in Southern California. We used to elect members of the U.S. Senate from Oregon. There used to be Republican senators and statewide elected officials from Washington State. So this is a nationwide fight, but it really matters. Republicans in blue states should be joining us and rooting us on.
Okay, so unity, fiscal responsibility, free enterprise, peace through strength, Constitution, and the rule of law. To some people, those might sound very uncontroversial, but you're leaving out some very controversial issues. How would you handle abortion rights, climate change, immigration? Same-sex marriage might be reconsidered. What about those hot and important issues?
So we're talking today about our Republican legacy, and we have made a decision to focus on those 5 principles because we think they are unifying and commonly held by all Republicans, or used to be. There are, of course, lots of other issues that elected officials are going to have to deal with, and maybe the party itself, when it drafts a platform, is going to have to deal with. But for now, our mission is to mobilize people around those issues. And again, we are not a PAC. We're not going to be endorsing or supporting specific candidates. Our job is to advocate that the party return to those key unifying principles. And there's other people out there who are going to make the debate about those other issues. We've chosen that it is not the mission of our Republican legacy.
But aren't important people asking you, Chris? We need a roadmap. We won. We have Congress. We won with Trump. You're kind of putting off a lot of, it seems to me, important questions to come. So, but you need to convince some people.
Well, sure. And there are people who want us to take a position on every issue, and we're just telling them, no, we're not going to do that. There's people who think, well, we need to be supporting moderate Democrats. Like, no, we are not going to do that. We are here to do what we have been created to do, which is advocate for these core unifying principles, which I think, sum up the vast bulk of where the Republican Party has always stood. And Donald Trump and his wing of the party have not been true to those principles. I mean, the idea of today doubling tariffs on steel is craziness compared to where, Republicans are normally have been on trade. So again, we're not asking anybody right this moment to vote for anybody specifically. We're saying if you want a Republican Party that is once again primarily focused on these principles, you need to join us.
Okay, how hopeful are you? I mean, because you're saying, look, people keep giving me reasons why this won't work, but this is the system we have, and I'm trying to do something. But, scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic or depressed are you about the prospects for your old party?
Oh, I'm so much more optimistic now than I was before. On election night, I was really despondent. I had worked hard on Republicans for Harris and, the idea of Donald Trump winning again. But the next morning, it just came into my mind, the Trump era is now over. This is his high watermark. It's going to change. And that makes me very hopeful for the country and for the future of the Republican Party. Is it going to be easy? No. Am I certain we're going to win? No. But we had no shot before. And again, I know for an absolute fact, as sure as I know the sun is coming up tomorrow, that there's going to be an election in 2028, and there's going to be a contest for the control of the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is not going to be on that playing field.
There's going to be an open, free, fair election as we used to know them?
Of course. What hasn't been an open, free, and fair election? Donald Trump bitched and moaned because he lost the 2020 campaign, but it was free and honest and open, and the rules were followed. And in the end, after a riot at the Capitol, everyone accepted the results of the election. The world has become a different place, but the old rules still apply. We just had a free and fair and open election, and Donald Trump won it.
And you think Donald Trump, who's in power now, who, if he looked at the polls and thought there was a chance that his legacy would be tarnished, he would lose in the midterms, or his party would lose post-Trump? You think he's going to let elections run free and fair?
What can he do about it, Bill? It's good to be, I guess, vigilant, but let's not be afraid of things that really can't happen. This is still the United States of America. We're still governed by the rule of law. There is still a constitution. There are still courts that are right now stopping Donald Trump from doing most everything he's doing. He bluffs and threatens, but ultimately he's, this taco thing where he chickens out. Over and over again, he says these dramatic things and then stands down. There is going to be a normal, free, and fair election in 2028. He is going to move out of the White House, whether he likes it or not. That's how it works. And so it's not productive to cower in fear or give up because you think that the rules have changed and you can't win. No, damn it. This is still the United States of America, and we're still a democracy.
That is Chris Vance, former chair of the Washington State Republican Party and state lawmaker, King County Councilmember. He quit the Republican Party. He tried other things. He's back within the Republican Party, trying to make hope and change once again. Chris Vance, thank you for speaking with us about this group, Our Republican Legacy.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. And hey, this show is only possible because listeners support us. If you are able to give right now, check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.